Hi everyone, welcome to our first ever Entertainment Technology Group talk. My name is Kirsty, I'm the founder and director of Whyte PR. Before we get started, just a little bit of housekeeping. If you can, please stay muted, keep your camera off so you can only see the beautiful faces of our speakers, that would be great. The talk will be roughly 30 minutes and then we will go into a Q&A session. You're all very welcome to ask any more questions that you have. Please just pop that into the chat with your name and company, and I will ask them and direct them to I'll ask your questions and direct them to whichever speaker you want to ask the question to. I think we are ready to get started. So before we begin, very quick introduction on Whyte and what the group is all about. So Whyte specializes in video games and esports. The AC has been going for 6 years now. I've been working around 11 years. Actually have my very first company I worked with joining, so that's great. Hello, Indigo Pearl. And we've done everything from working with core MMOs to mobile to working with esports teams and brands looking to enter the space. When we joined the PRCA, we saw there wasn't a group that was dedicated to the gaming space, and then a little bit more accessible. We would call it entertainment technology. And that really does mean that it should cover all verticals within the space. So that is everything from sort of streaming, influencer management, all the way through to sort of like how to tap into an esports team and a good way to do it, and how to do it in a good, meaningful way. From our point of view, that we know navigating younger audiences can be a little bit of a minefield. So we thought this group would be a good way for us to start coming together, collaborating on what we could help you with from our area of expertise, and also maybe how the wider PRCA network could help us grow and help our industries as well. So I would like to kick off the very first panel, which is all about sort of what, in very general terms, sort of what the games industry is about and what it is to be a gamer. And I think, we've all come quite a long way from the notion of that whole sitting in your basement type stereotype, and our industry has developed a lot. So joining me today to talk about this in a lot more detail is Remer, the head of esports at Newzoo, Adam, the founder and CEO of Edge, and Kais, the UK managing director and partner of Bborg. So welcome, gentlemen, lovely to have you, and thank you for your time. I think what we'll do to start with, for anyone that is new to the games industry, I'm really keen, and I know that there's been a lot of headlines around just how fantastic we are, but I think it is really helpful to get the latest facts and figures, just to show you all how we are doing, and the numbers to actually pay attention to, and the numbers that might mean something to your campaigns as well. So I'm going to hand the reins over to Remer, who will outline some of the latest data from Newzoo.
Perfect. Thank you, Kirsty. Appreciate it. Yeah, so I'm going to quickly take you guys through a few slides. I promise we did not trick you into a keynote. This will be a panel. It's going to be very quick. But I thought it'd be worth kind of emphasizing quickly just the scope and scale. So I kind of kick off here with esports. Just to give you a feel for those who are, let's say, newer to the space. I'm sure most of you have heard what esports is, but as a reminder, it is essentially video games being played competitively, much in the structure and business of traditional sports. So it has a broadcast, it has leagues, teams, competitors, and it fills arenas like this photo. So when it comes to esports, just looking at kind of the size of it globally at the moment, it's come a long way. It's definitely the smaller brother of gaming, but it's also very interesting for brands. And we've seen 50 billion hours watched over last year. We've 500 million fans and almost 1 billion in revenues worldwide on the esports side. So it's become quite sizable. Looking at gaming, we get a lot larger. We found that gamers played 600 billion hours of games over over last year. I don't know what to convert that into some crazy other metric, but it's a long time. 2.7 billion gamers on the planet, so getting close to half of the world's population plays games, and the industry does 159 billion in revenues, making it the largest entertainment sector globally. breakdown regionally, it's what you'll start to notice as we go through some of these questions, these topics, is the size of gaming means it almost sort of matches just global demographics. Obviously, Asia Pacific representing the lion's share of gamers. Middle East and Africa having 14%, similar number to Europe at 14%, and then Latin America and North America making up 18% together. It grew 5.3% again year over year. So it is just very much a significant industry. And I think one thing that people often forget in games, and I'm sure we'll touch on this a bunch going through, is that a lot of it is mobile driven now. I think that, mobile has been in many ways the great equalizer. And it has opened up gaming to a lot of audiences that normally would have viewed it as console and PC gaming, which maybe can be a little more niche or more hardcore. Of course, you do have many PC and console players globally as well, but mobile has really opened it up to other generations, other people, more casual audiences. And so what you see here, and this is a revenue side, not a player side, but you can see today half of all games revenue globally, so up to 174.9 billion for 2020 is our forecast. Pretty much half comes from the mobile sector. So that kind of emphasizes it. And that gives you a few basic numbers to start off with.
I think the main, the main gist of what this entire talk is about, and the whole point of what Remer was saying, is the fact that our industry is very much digital, global, young. The landscape has changed immensely over the last few years. It's continuing to change as well. One of the fantastic things that we do is that we are able to evolve and pivot very, very. And I think with all of these changes, something that is also very unique to our industry is how we speak to young people. And I'd like to talk more to Adam's experience with his company Edge, having a young co-founder at the age of 17, and also having two team members on the actual development team who are also 14 and 15. And I think what's always amazing about our young people is just how professional and how passionate they are. So Adam, from your point of view, like what's your experience been working with younger gamers and your media?
Wow, yeah, no, thanks, Kirsty. It's an interesting question. My experience working with younger gamers, well, specifically the ones in our team at Edge has been phenomenal, eye-opening. I mean, Scott is my co-founder. He's 17. Anyone Google Scott Hyatt, H-I-E-T-T, you'll find a Forbes article about him being the future of computer science. And he has onboarded some of his friends and minions to our company. Robert, who's 14, Alistair, who's 15, who's built some AI sneaker bot builders, and Benja, who's 19. And we've got a couple of much older employees who are 21 years of age. And what I've learned about working with these people is damn they're intelligent. They're super smart. Scott anecdotally told me that when he was 5, he started to learn how to code. So from age 5 to 7, he's learning a language like anyone would learn to speak English or French or Chinese. And so he can program in loads of different languages. And I think these sort of internet kids are way more intelligent than what we were. And I think their ability to multitask with like multiple screens, that ability not to be distracted in spite of having a hyper stimulated environment. And the final thing I would say is they tend to find the simplest solutions to problems because they see the world in a different way than we do. For example, at Edge, we take data and we use the data to pay influencers. So if they post to Instagram or TikTok or Twitch, and so they're always trying to find the simplest solutions. How can we take a physical dollar and turn it into a virtual event or vice versa? Apart from that, just it's been very inspiring. Like it's really cool to come to work with people who are half your age and twice as smart as you.
And we worked on an event, a charity event together during lockdown called YANA, and one of the key elements of that was bringing people together over video games, and it was incredible. It was global. It was meant to be very sociable, and pretty much tackling, I suppose, trying to tackle isolation through through gaming, and that feeling of loneliness, which, you know, typically the idea of gaming is that you are playing something by yourself rather than actually participating with a load of other people. And one of the things that always stood out to me about the initiative was that we were trying to tap into, you know, a very diverse range of people, like not just, you know, people that are playing sort of Minecraft, but anyone that was playing Candy Crush. And what I find super interesting is, I suppose how that stereotype of being a gamer has completely changed. And, you know, I know from conversations that we've had, you've always said how, you know, you're looking to get friends and, you know, playing Animal Crossing and everything together. Like, from your perspective, come from a sports background, you've come from, you know, an esports background. How have you seen things shift and become more diverse?
Massively. Like, what was it in February? The World Health Organization said that there was gamers addiction, or maybe January or December last year, but they quickly changed their tune when lockdown happened, and all of a sudden Beckham was buying an esports team or investing in one, and, you know, you were watching Serena Williams play Mario Tennis. And I think that it's become really cool to be a gamer. And it is, because it's inherently creative, really competitive in some, you know, in different ways, shapes and forms. You know, lots of my friends have returned to the nostalgia of Mario and what have you. And, you know, we even had like Premier League rugby we're playing during YANA. That was crazy that, you know, rugby stars are playing with fans. And we've seen more of that with like the Premier League footballers. Everyone's a gamer. So I think now it's really not, you don't need to be shy to be a gamer. It's really cool, in my opinion.
And with that, and Kais, I want to come over to you with that notion that everyone is a gamer. A lot of what your company does is they connect gaming to the social platforms, and gaming in many ways offers like it's another social platform. And I know that you guys are known for creating sort of very fun, different experiences for your clients and their campaigns. Can you tell us a little bit about what it is that you guys do and how you go about helping your clients gamify their campaigns?
Sure. I mean, yeah, we're a creative agency, and we work predominantly in the gaming industry. So our clients per se are, you know, video game publishers or studios. We do have also non-endemic brands that we work with and that are sort of like reaching out to us because they're interested in tapping into this community. And I guess our expertise in this market makes us relevant in these situations. I mean, it's kind of hard, Kirsty, to respond to your question because there's no secret recipe. Otherwise, we'd be billionaires, I suppose. But I guess, like, yeah, for every brief, I say that we probably try to spend some time finding any relevant insights, you know, that would eventually help us connecting, you know, the brand to the right audience and understanding what are the kind of key brand values that, again, will speak to the people that we're trying to target. You were mentioning channels such as Facebook and Instagram, but I think it goes beyond, like, you know, these two channels, obviously, and especially nowadays, with the importance of content, you know, which can take any form and can be hosted on any platforms. I guess we're more focused on the storytelling part. We're most focused first, like, you know, on what we want to tell and the message that we want to tell. And then only at a second stage we decide on which platform it needs to be hosted, to be broadcasted, to best resonate to an audience. And finally, gamifying as such is a good thing, but again, it's not necessarily always, you know, when it's gamified or interactive, then an ad is the most effective. Like, sometimes, like, great storytelling can be very passive and yet, you know, very, very effective. So again, it goes back to finding that relevant insight that will best resonate to the target audience or audiences.
And in terms of, I suppose, in terms of that storytelling for brands looking to enter the space, a lot of brands that we've come across, a few brands that we've come across are looking for that sort of quick fix to engage your audiences. And, you know, I would have thought within the, you know, with some of our attendees here today, they may well have been approached by some of their clients, like, how do we get how do we get in front of a Gen Z audience? Like, what do we do? And I think the main thing is creating that connection in a meaningful way. How do you go about that? How do you advise your clients on doing that?
Sure. I mean, first and foremost, we start by saying that quick fix don't work, and you know, if the brands are just looking for the sort of like, you know, next opportunity and consider gaming this way to get more like, you know, instant revenue, then probably wrong. I think there's tons and tons of bad examples, like, you know, out there of brands having tried to sort of like you know, get into the market. I think it probably goes back to the community, the gaming community, having this huge, I guess, bullshit detector, where, like, you know, again, if it doesn't feel genuine, they will just trash it automatically. So going back to you know, anonymous brands that are sort of like reaching out to us to again, because they are interested in entering this market. What we try to do is really try to work with them and educate them in a way to that we understand eventually what is the sort of like the brand purpose, what are the key objectives, what are the main KPIs, what are they, why are they you know, willing to enter this market, what's the ultimate goal in 1 year, 3 years, 5 years time. Like, part of this work is more of a sort of like, you know, creative consultancy and also like pure strategic consultancy bit, where essentially we're going back to the brand values to, again, find the most organic way of planning it. And again, it's because, like, most probably when we say, like, you know, things are forced, it's probably not worth it. I think that's incredibly true and relevant for the gaming market. And sometimes we have great examples, like we, for instance, connected OnePlus with Fnatic back in 2018, and it's incredible to see today, like, you know, how embedded the two brands are, and you know, they are. We're not longer working, like, you know, with them directly. We're not involved in their partnership, but it's great to see that the two brands are still collaborating and are still creating, you know, really great and relevant content. Probably because, again, at the beginning, when we initiated the meeting, we thought that there was an incredible relevance between their two audiences. And that you know, the partnership between the two brands will feel natural.
Just to jump on the back of what Kais is saying, I think this is something you see a lot, right? You see two types of engagement in games and esports. One is the one where the people are actually invested and engaged and interested in really accessing that audience and sort of making a big impact in that space. And you see the kind where someone on their board heard from someone that gaming is the place to be. So someone said, we have to do this and let's do the check mark, right? And it's tricky because there's a lot of language to understand there, right? There's a lot of sort of signals, and I sort of, the bullshit detector was a great quote. It's very obvious when a game is made, when an ad, let's say, or some kind of promotional spot is made by non-gamers for a gaming audience, because it typically comes off as very cheesy, very over the top, very non-resonant. Like there's a real set of codes and sort of language there that gatekeeps that community. And when people do it authentically, it's super powerful, and it really resonates with that audience. But when it's not done that way, it's shown instantly. There's an anecdote I like to tell, and I'll leave the company names out of this, but I was at an arena and there was one company who was doing these awful sort of spots that were really, like I mentioned, sort of these non-gamers thinking what gamers would like. And they were expensive spots too, and they really did not want help in sort of putting together what that spot's going to look like, and they were running it. And we were standing with them at this arena, and another company who was also engaged with the event put on their spot, and it was this very cheap, simply made spot. It was a guy cutting with hedge cutters. He was cutting hedges, and at the end the hedges looked like EU greater than NA, right? Very simple spot, but it immediately speaks the language, and the whole crowd erupted, right? And it cost them almost nothing to do. And immediately the guys realized, you know, we've been doing this all wrong, because we don't need to throw money at it. We need to throw authenticity at it. And so I think that is really a key thing to emphasize here, is as Kai said, it's not a quick fix. It's understanding that audience and accessing them authentically.
Adam, anything to add to that?
No, I think everything's been said by these two gentlemen.
Okay, great. So I would like to come to you for the next point though. And I think one of the reasons you three are all together is because I wanted to go from the data aspect all the way through to the creative aspect, because I think one thing that we do that I think is fantastic is that all of our campaigns tend to be really connected and really integrated. And I know everyone on the agency side always talks about integrated campaigns, but it is something that I think we do very, very well gaming side. So from a data perspective, what is it that for Remer and Adam actually, what is it that you guys that you think people should be paying attention to? I think there's a lot of the same numbers that get thrown around, but from a data perspective, are there any specific trends, insights, I suppose sort of like audience insights that you think would be helpful for when people start to enter the space and to create their campaigns? Adam, perhaps we can start with you.
I was going to turn it to my colleague.
Oh,
but
sorry.
sure.
Okay.
I mean, I'll speak to it. That's okay. So just to be clear, Kirsty, the question is what metrics should be reported on, which ones are being reported on, and what are the numbers from a data perspective that are valuable to pay attention to?
Yeah, exactly that.
Cool. So yeah, I guess before starting Edge, I used to work at an influencer agency called the GOAT Agency. And what was unique and great about their business model, probably not unique anymore, is that they would guarantee deliverables before the campaigns were executed. So what they were able to do is, because they'd run hundreds of campaigns over a few years, they had a pretty good idea of what the outlay from the influencer was going to be in terms of those campaign deliverables. Caveat that I would frame that with, and this is not to speak disparagingly against my former colleagues, it's that the campaign deliverables that we report on are not necessarily the things that brands really should care about. And so what do I mean when I say that? Things like reach, impressions, views, you know, all of those big sort of gross vanity metrics, they don't really mean anything to the end consumer. So I think brands would like to see as much tracking and as much of a direct correlation between, and this is only in the influencer space, but what the influencer does, and it's not only in the influencer space, in fact, in paid media as well, it's the exact same. What did that actually deliver? And I think that the important campaign metrics, and maybe, you know, my colleagues will have something else to say about this, but, you know, concurrent viewers, unique viewers, you know, how long are people hanging around for? What are they watching? And then what are they clicking on? Like for me, that's always the best one, is like clicks. What did that Instagram story deliver? Was it a swipe up or not? Did the Instagram post deliver the same? Did the integrated YouTube video, did people click on the comment in the comment section? I think everything else is a little bit more, it's more difficult to draw a direct correlation.
Yeah, so I mean, from my side, I think everything Adam said makes a lot of sense. And sort of to add on to that, I mean, when I look at doing these kinds of campaigns, there's sort of, I mean, I think there's obviously a very strong and important qualitative and creative element of building the campaign to resonate, but all around that, there are numbers that are valuable to give insight, right? So I think even before, when you're setting up campaigns, different games, different demographics in different countries have different interests in different games, right? It's not as though it's evenly distributed or uniform and just this game has 10% of all players globally and it's all the same, you know, so it really changes. So a great example I give, for example, is if you want to market to Brazilian teenagers, then like something like Free Fire is a super powerful tool of a game to get involved in and the esports around it. But if you're trying to market to, you know, middle-aged housewives in the UK and you go through Free Fire, you're not going to get anything, right? You're going to get absolutely no value. So I think a very important first step in doing anything in this space is knowing who you want to talk to and where they are, right? And quick plug, we have a platform, Newzoo. It's a data platform. We have Pro. It's fantastic for all of this stuff. But to continue, you know, getting in there and seeing what your audience is playing is the most important step, I think, because you can make the most wonderful campaign that speaks the language of that game, but if you're not reaching the people who you want to reach, it's not going to deliver value. Beyond that, you know, I think that you can then dig a little deeper and you have to identify, is this game an esport, right? Is there an esports? Because esports are great for any kind of marketing or brand activation because it's sort of purpose built to deliver that. Does it have a big esports audience? Is it more influencer driven, right? FIFA, you might expect to be a big esport, but in fact is actually much more an influencer driven space. So you want to get involved with FIFA, it might make sense to find key personalities and do influencer marketing there as opposed to doing esports marketing. You'll get a bigger audience, you'll get more connection with those people. So the kind of data already, and then the viewership number around those kinds of people, the audience numbers, all of this, the social following, the demographics of the social, because pretty much every gaming campaign is integrated across both the broadcast and a large social push, because gaming fans are super digital. They're very engaged on Twitter, on Instagram, on whatever the key platform is for their market. So all of these numbers become relevant in understanding the reach that you might achieve, right? You might be interested, as Adam mentioned, then in the engagement you get as you're doing the campaign. And then when you kind of look through it holistically, you have everything from your on broadcast exposure, your engagement on the socials, actually maybe some sale conversions. You have, if you do other types of things, like perhaps digital goods is another type of thing you can do if you're working with a publisher or someone else. IP integrations, looking at the performance of all of those is super relevant. So, you know, half the battle, a large chunk of the battle, of course, is making that resonant campaign that understands the audience and actually activates the fans. But you really need to make sure you land it right and understand what's working and what's not as you grow and evolve that relationship. And data can do that, obviously, give you that insight.
Excellent, thank you. And then I suppose coming back to you, Kyson, we all touched on some of the successful campaigns from your perspective with say Fnatic. Are there any campaigns that you feel have leveraged, I suppose, creative technology in a really successful ways? Any other campaigns that really stood out to you?
I mean, it's difficult to just retain one, right? I mean, there's a lot of great campaigns and cases out there where again, and not necessarily just the best use of technology, but probably the best understanding of consumers' behavior. I'm thinking like something that everyone's probably have in mind right now is the different activations that have been made on Fortnite, such as like Travis Scott's or Marshmallow before concerts. That's an incredible understanding of a video game not being a video game, but actually being a social platform where teenagers are connecting, and therefore to some people Fortnite might just be an FPS or a third-person shooter, but to other people it's actually a place to hang out. And I think it's that which makes our job incredibly interesting on a daily basis, is trying to always and constantly research consumer behavior, try to understand, as I guess like we're all getting older by the day, try to understand how youngsters are consuming content, why are they interested in such or such channels. So technology, yes, it always comes at some point in the equation, but I think it's only good, or we can only say that it's a good use of technology when it serves the storytelling and the brand purpose once again, which I think is at the core of our work as a creative agency, but also which is mandatory for a brand to succeed when entering the gaming market.
I think one campaign.
Is there any? Oh, sorry, Remer.
Just to quickly jump in here, one campaign, it's not maybe as much, it was actually still somewhat technology driven. I think the one that always sticks to me the most is a super powerful campaign was 2019's Riot Games x Louis Vuitton. I thought this was super clever because Louis Vuitton has a tradition of making these sort of trophy cases. And so they do that for the World Championship, for League of Legends. But on top of that, they then do a in-game skin line that features Louis Vuitton design skins. They have a real world clothing line that's League of Legends inspired. They do a music video with these characters wearing these outfits. So there were a few other elements as well. And so you have this full court press around all of the different types of IP and technologies that both of these companies control, right? You have the game IP, you have the esports IP, you have the trophy case, you have clothing, you have all of this stuff, music. And so you take all of this together and you put it together into this campaign that really feels like it makes sense. And you wouldn't think it would make sense. Louis Vuitton and League of Legends, it doesn't feel organic. But when you start to mesh those IPs together and then use all your platforms to sort of to turn them into something more powerful, it becomes a really meaningful activation. So that's one I always like to point to as being this really intelligent way of leveraging lots of different elements from the space and putting it together.
I think that's actually a really fantastic point as well. And yeah, really, really good example. I think one of the things that we found so much is that we're more and more we're getting faced with the idea that you can just put that it's okay if you're a brand to just put a logo on a jersey. That just does not cut the mustard anymore. Like, you cannot come into the space and just assume because you're a big name or a big car brand that you're going to be able to sort of fill the boots as as likes of, let's say, McLaren or F1, entities that have been in the space for a very, very long time. They've done their due diligence, they've really done their homework, and they've connected with the community in a whole other way. One of the things that I love about our community is that actually they like brands entering the space, provided it's done in a nice way. They like the legitimacy of having a Louis Vuitton, a Gucci, or whoever actually, partnering with the teams that they love as well. I think, in general, the entire network it's very the entire community across gaming, across esports. It's a lovely place to be in many ways, because they are so passionate and they're so dedicated. They just want people to feel the same about what they love as well. Conscious of time, and I want to come on to audience questions. So I suppose just to round off really, and this is a question to all speakers, from your respective specialties within both gaming and esports, what would you recommend for brands looking to, any do's and don'ts for brands looking to enter the space, just to round off? And Remer, I know you've covered off a lot, but if there was sort of like 3 main takeaways, what would it be? Let's start with your top 3 do's or don'ts.
Sure. I think top 3, I would say number 1 is authenticity all the way down. I think it's bled through this whole panel and we've heard it. Speaking to the audience in a way that shows you understand them is what's going to get you all of the value in this space, and doing it in a way that shows you don't know what the fuck you're talking about is going to is money down the drain, right? The next one is understand what medium you should be using, and that's the game, that's the influencer, that's the streamer. It's understand where your audience is and make sure that you're reaching them correctly, right? And also just like and maybe the last one I would say is also think about the properties message. What is their brand identity? Can you fuse it with yours, right? And that's in a way that's also, when you go outside of the game, that becomes IP. If you are a brand who is representing sort of, let's say, tradition and dignity and whatever, you may not want to partner with a team or an influencer who's got like an edgy, change it up wild demeanor, right? Because there's the messaging of those two are not going to merge. So all of these different influencers, even these games, these teams, these properties, they will have their own identity, and you want to make sure that whatever messaging you're doing, it capitalizes on the messaging of that property and sort of make sure it makes sense for your brand. That'd be probably the 3 that come to head.
Adam, over to you.
Yeah, sure. I think those are great points. So I'll do 3 do's instead of 3 don'ts, because it's sunny and smiley in Portugal. So my 3 do's: do work with micro influencers. I think working with hero influencers, vanity influencers is going to get you the big reach. When I was at GOAT, we used to define the difference between a celebrity and an influencer. And celebrities are people that you just look at their feed and you may or may not like it and you kind of flip past. Influencers are people that hold influence over you because you trust them. So I would work with smaller influencers. I would use a technology platform that's going to allow you to report on data effectively and properly. If that's, you know, a big commercial sponsorship, yeah, head over to Newzoo. If it's a smaller scale influencer campaign, come to Edge. There's my pitch. And,
I like it.
thanks, dude. Yeah, we're not competitors, don't worry. And then the third thing that I would absolutely do is be creative. I think, was it Kai said that video games, yeah, Fortnite is the truest manifestation of gaming as a social platform. And I would even say that it's a conduit to the metaverse. That is the manifestation, the beginning of Ready Player One. So the opportunities are pretty insane right now. There's a lot of games with like open APIs where you can actually edit the characters within the game. So you could have like the river in Dota 2 being full of Mountain Dew, and you could have the Baron wearing a big crazy Doritos hat. You know, you can, it doesn't need to be limited by your budget. You can do things that are a lot different to, as you said, Kirsty, sticking a logo on a jersey. I mean, even if you're going to do that, you might as well do it in the game. Like, it's going to be seen by more people. So yeah, go small, use data, and be creative. Stay edgy.
Lovely. Kais, over to you.
Yeah, I think, yeah, everything has been said pretty much, but yeah, I mean, definitely echoing what the guys have just said. Like, I would say, like, don't think short term. I think if you're just like, you know, stepping into the game to make like money in the next 3 months or 6 months, then just don't. I would say, like, you know, understand your audience and stay true to yourself as a brand. Again, don't travesty yourself, or don't think that you know, your business is something else. You know, it is what it is, and you should really understand how you are going to connect with the audience and why they are going to be genuinely interested. And then eventually, like, and it's probably like the first rule, but never assume. I would say just test and learn, and test again and learn again. I think this is the general rule, you know, to be applied to any industry, and this industry in particular. I mean, things are changing so swiftly that by the time you think you find your cash cow, she's probably already dead, and you need to find, like, you know, a new source of revenue. But it's the beauty of it as well. You keep reinventing yourself as a brand, you know, trying to come up with newer, crazier activations every time, which is cool and refreshing.
Awesome, thank you so much. So we do have a question from Joseph Moore from Copper Consultancy. Thank you, Joseph. I work in the infrastructure and construction sector, handling stakeholder communications and engagement. The industry has been typically slow to adopt new technologies and break out of its industry box. One of the key issues we tackle on a daily basis is targeting young people and getting them involved in development and planning. What lessons could we learn from gaming in this respect? That is a great question. Would anyone in particular like to go first? That can be to all of our speakers, I think. Any tips for the, sorry? Kai, so you're going to go for it, or is Adam putting you up for it?
Like, yeah, sure. I mean, it's definitely not an easy one. Yeah, I don't know. I guess, yeah. It's kind of always difficult to try to sort of, like, you know, replicate anything that would apply in one sector to the other. But I think again, like, I guess generally speaking, like, when you think of you know, the fact that one out of 3 person, I think, but Remer, probably correct me if I'm wrong, is a gamer worldwide right now. So I think, like, finding ways to sort of, like, make whatever form of communication you have with your audience, like, a bit funnier, a bit snappier, a bit more entertaining, I would say. Is probably a good direction to take. But then when I say that, I'm conscious that I say nothing at the same time. So yeah, I mean, I'll leave it to you guys if you have any other pieces of.
I mean, Adam, I think you raised a really good point around sort of the micro influencers, and actually I think that's always a really good way to start these kind of campaigns, is just figuring out sort of what is that link, even if it's tenuous, to some of the smaller creators who you can build a community around. So yeah, I feel like, Adam, you had there's probably a few insights there on your side.
Kirsty, I'm just trying to understand the question better. Is it like, how does a brand that's non-endemic to gaming best enter the space. And you know, Kai's was saying humor and okay, yeah,
pretty much. It's specifically for in this case, it's the construction sector. So how can they talk to young people?
The construction sector. How can the construction sector talk?
Partner with Minecraft and any kind of builder type related games.
Not a bad idea. There's actually a bunch of Minecraft agencies out there that, you know, if you pay us a little bit of money, I'm sure some of the guys who used to be Minecraft server builders can do something really cool for you. I know the guys at Kairos recently rebuilt Gamescom, which is like a conference center event. I mean, loads of people do it. It's a very, I suppose that's quite authentic. Gosh, I wouldn't be against trying something like sponsoring a small esports activation like Farm Simulator or Goat Simulator, something that can be turned back to construction, maybe SimCity, and then getting some influencers that you already work with that might have an overlap with the gaming audience to do something. Maybe shoot us an email, man. Like that sounds like a really difficult problem, and we really like those.
Yeah, but I think just to tie on the back of that, I think there's a lot of cool stuff, right? Like anything that involves buildings or building at all, you could do in the space, right? So something that came to mind for me is you could do like a partnership with a MOBA game, right? Where the whole thing is destroying the other team's base, and you do a video where you guys are constructing the base before the match, right? There's another example of kind of a cool, interesting thing you guys could do. So there's plenty of ways to engage authentically. I think it's just about, you know, connecting with someone like Adam, of course, and doing the research and sort of digging in and figuring out sort of what is this about and where do I fit in.
Do you know what? I want to pick up on that, and thanks very much for the shout out, dude. But like a lot of people think gaming's the answer, and they haven't even really thought about what the question is. Like, what is it that you want to achieve? You know, if you want to access gamers, then you should just, you know, just run some ads on a bunch of gaming websites, LOL Esports and Wikipedia and .esports, and you'll get loads of eyeballs and a lot of brand awareness. But if the purpose is converting these people, see, with construction, I just don't understand what the purpose is. Is it to have long-term corporate affiliation so that these people buy your services when they're doing corporate developments or residential housing? Yeah, I think it's probably define your objective first, and then we can talk about how gaming can enable that, if at all.
Fantastic. Unless there are any other questions, we are coming up pretty much time. So I just want to thank our fantastic speakers, apologize for the rude interruption that we had, although that was definitely an experience in itself. I've never had that happen to me. And yeah, thank everyone for joining the first ever entertainment technology group. I'm sure we'll have we're aiming to have a few more of these talks over the next few months. What I would love for anyone participating today is just firstly, let us know if you need any information on our speakers, the slides from Remer, for example, or any introductions. And then anything that you guys are interested in finding out more about. You know, we want this to be very much an open forum. Any questions that you guys have that, you know, the gaming sector can help with, you know, we are all ears and we want to help. Or any other topics that you're keen to cover off for future talks as well. So thank you all for joining us.